Hello, my friends. How are you there? Hi. Okay. Mm, Let me adjust my settings here for a moment. Oh, okay. I have to adjust this too. 1 second, please. I forgot about microphone. There's always something I'm forgetting. Okay. Okay. 1 second, please. Okay. I think it's okay now. Hello, everybody there. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening to all of you who are watching, and thank you very much for choosing to be here with me today or tonight. Can you hear me? Is everything okay? I'm assuming the microphone is working as it was working yesterday during my Spanish live. There shouldn't be any echo band. Um, as it was just as it was yesterday. It is set up just like it was yesterday. Let me just check myself very fast. Uh, 1 second, please. Testing. Yeah, I have no echo here from my end. So, can you confirm, please, that everything is okay? Thank you very much, Claudia, for confirming. Hello, Daniel James and Sauli, Charlie, Cindy, Lyrin versus the Matrix. Everything is okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mick Flair. And hello to all the less known members of the chat. Maribel, Kat, WP, Angelica, Ralph, Loving Earth Life, Aspiring Alchemist, Ren Neelan. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing the names correctly. So, hey guys, this is a live. This is the live to do with the two last videos about the soul fragmentation. As I see from the comments, I think it was enjoyed very much, the video. I think, yes, I already was, I told you, or I think I told you I said in the Spanish live, in the Spanish video, that it was going to be a good series, very metaphysical and complex. Sorry if I'm stumbling on my words a little bit. Golden Orb, thank you very much. Just because I'm between languages, sometimes my mind doesn't even know what language I speak. Yes, like yesterday, I was sending Matthias a message, and I thought in my perception that I'm speaking English. And apparently, I was speaking Spanish, and I had to repeat the whole thing. It happens to me all the time. Yes. So, yes, the live is about the last two videos on the fragmentation of souls. Whatever points that I captured that I thought were interesting to me. Thank you very much, Lyrin. So much work. Well, it's just that it's just so much there to share. As I always say, I still have so much to share, so much accumulated. At the end of this live, as always, I will mention what videos I have still to make ahead in the very near future. Okay? So let's just get straight to it. I'm going to go through various points. I have my notes as always, of course. Let me just pull it up here. I am not going to look at the chat very much, so don't bother with too many questions because I may not see it. However, you never know because my screen is divided. I'm looking here and there, so I might catch a question or two. Cześć, Barb. This is hello in Polish because there are some Polish people here as well. I'm sure the Polish channels are actually growing, not run by me. There are two people in Poland who are working hard on transmitting this information in Polish, and I know also in other languages. By the way, talking about other languages, this is insane, but I just realized that there are like about 1,400 different PDFs of different languages, translations done in our website. And I know this because this is something that Matthias used to do, and he still is doing that. However, because he is so busy, I'm going to help him with that, and I'm going to upload those as well. And that's how I know that this is how many transcripts there are of different languages. You have to go to the to the English side mainly, and under each transcripts there are PDFs in different languages: Swedish, Slovenian, Croatian, even Vietnamese, Polish. So you may, thank you very much, Barb. Dziękuję, Barb. So if you are interested in any of these languages, go check it out, share it around. You are allowed to make videos or share it on blogs in your respective language. Just make sure to put credits to the original source. Now, C is asking, I haven't watched the last 2 videos. Can I still watch your live? Well, yes, you can, because I'm going to be going through some main points, but it's not like you have to watch those videos to understand what I'm talking about. It will give you a comprehension, a better comprehension if you watch the videos after the live, if something sparks your interest, because I'm not going to be able to mention all the points. Absolutely. Yes. Okay, well, thank you. Hello, Robert. Revelación Cósmica Semillas Estelares, that profile there with 3 hearts. That's actually Robert. He doesn't speak much English, but he sometimes pops in to support and say hello. Hola, Robert. Hola. Okay, well, there we go. Let's go. Okay. Yesterday it took me about 1 hour and 50 minutes to go through everything. I'm not going to be rushing, but at the same time, I'm hoping to take less than that here. Okay. All right. So, a sip of something, and now we can start. So, it starts with the understanding of what the soul is. We cannot talk about soul fragmentation, how it fragments and divides into different people if we don't really understand what the soul here is. So, very briefly, because those of you who are with me for a long time, I think you understand the subject very well. But for the new ones who are still struggling maybe with some concepts, the soul is a fragment of the source. We are all source. That's what we are. But at the same time, we are also a fragment of that source. All of us are. But here, key point, very important point, something that was mentioned also by Mari SWARUU in her video about the soul. It's not like the porcelain vase broke into a million pieces and now we are not the whole anymore. We are a small shattered portion of that vase. That's not what we are. We are a holographic piece of the porcelain vase, which means holographic, that it retains and sustains all the attributes and characteristics and powers of the whole, in this case of the source, which means each piece, each one of us, each soul contains within us everything that is the source itself, all the qualities. So that's very important. Now, the source operates outside of all duality. It just is. It's beyond all description. But the soul, actually, in order to be defined as something and in order to be defined as a soul, it needs to operate in duality. It operates in duality. That's how it is defined there, by the duality, by the contrast, by the perception limits of what you think you are, from where to where you perceive yourself as you, as ego, as identity. Here, ego is meant identity, I, the self. So, what separates you from feeling something and not another here in this realm of duality is an idea that popped up somewhere in the mind of the soul. We are all just ideas emerging as manifested something, manifested identities, all defined by ideas. And the body that we have in the physicality, it helps with that perception even more. as it limits, sort of illusorily, that's the game, it limits that from where to where you are, because it imposes that idea, additionally, that we are only something from here to here. Like, for example, here to here, I mean what we remember. In this case, it's our memories. For example, we remember ourselves being born somewhere. So this is the beginning, so to speak, of how we define ourselves. This is, we are from there, where we were born, up to the present moment. So the soul would be what this parameter dictates for you to feel as you. Of course, it's an illusion. It's an idea, because we are much more than that. But ideas that we have, including memories, is that limits that feeling of being from here to there. And not only ideas itself, but attachments to these ideas. Because if we only had ideas and then another, then maybe that wouldn't be the case here. But it's the attachment to those ideas that that cements even more that perceived self-definition of being an identity from here to here. And these attachments are very, very strong. They are there in our subconscious mind. So all these limits of what we perceive ourselves to be are our experiences and memories in duality. So now, to achieve that experience in duality, being apparently something that is not source, separate, is by the veil of forgetfulness. This is exactly where the veil of forgetfulness comes into play and is important, because if you removed it, your soul as an identity from here to there would disappear, would dissolve, because you would just be all as you are. Also, you would just be source itself without any limits, any fragments of from where to define yourself. So that's what the veil of forgetfulness achieves here, giving us this framework of identity. Otherwise, it just dissolves more and more into integration with other beings. And that's what expansion is, by the way. Expanding and stretching those limits from where to where we perceive ourself is, growing larger and larger in the perception of the I awareness. So you can only be a person, again, only be a person if you have those parameters of measurement. And those parameters of measurement are the experiences and memories. And here Yasky mentioned the Ramon. And I said Ramon in Spanish because that's how it is pronounced, but it's Raymond, I guess, in English. Let's keep it Ramon, keep it more exotic here for the English audience. Okay, so she used the example of Ramon. So what forms Ramon in his perception of being Ramon are his memories and his experiences of himself. That is where his self is centered. That's where his attention is centered, within those limits. So from here to here, that's his soul in his perception, which is an illusion, but that's how it is. So that's why also people are afraid of death, because they are afraid of losing that from here to there, because in their imagination, that's all there is, because they don't remember, most people here on earth. So they don't want to lose that. They don't remember themselves to be more. And now Yasky explains that even though we do have that sensation of being from here to there, fearing death, losing that from here to there identity, not all is totally forgotten ever. And that not forgotten part of the larger self that we are resides in our subconscious, past lives, because all that continues to form the interpretation that we have of everything that surrounds us, our personality, everything that we are, everything that we feel defines us, but beyond those narrow limits, our values, our personality, our deeper feelings and sentiments and doubts and beliefs and all that is shaped by what's in our subconscious, in our past lives, what we were before. So, because otherwise, if it wasn't the case, then everybody would be born the same. Everybody would have the same personality and the same values. Everybody would be just a clone of each other. But why then some people are born this way with that personality, with those predispositions and those beliefs and those tendencies, and others not? Even within the same family. Why, for example, a beagle, Bongo is a beagle, my dog, but her sister is different than her? Even because this applies even to animals, they carry those previous past life experiences, traumas, psychological issues, joys, perceptions, feelings, experiences in their subconscious, in their past lives. And that's what continues to form us. And beyond that, we are source. We are not even our past lives, memories of past lives, past identities, future identities. We are just source itself. So again, the soul here, to summarize this, is from where to where you feel yourself to be, where your point of attention perceives itself to be. It can be from here to here, very narrow. That's your soul. That's your experience of your soul. But the idea here, the expansion of the soul, is to grow that self-awareness of what we think we are. That's going to include maybe past lives. Not that important to remember past lives, though. I'll be mentioning that at the end. And more and more. And that's what raising of the frequency means. That's what growing into the 5D and beyond awareness means. It means stretching the perception of what we believe our parameters are of who we are, transcending those ideas of what we think we are. Okay, so now that we established this base, let's go to explain about the fragmentation itself. Okay, a quick pause and quick look at the chat. Okay. Thank you very much, Scott Ring. Lots of love back. Thank you for being here. And thank you, everybody. So let's continue. Now, the topic of fragmentation. So Yaski used the example of twins in her video to explain how what once was one soul, one person, divides into two different people. And this is and the example of twins is the perfect example how it can be viewed, how they start to begin to already have different experiences starting from being in a womb. Because one of them is here, so it has a different view, and the other one has there, so it has a different view. So that's where that different point of attention that they both represent starts to have different experiences. And slowly, not immediately, from birth, they will be shaping themselves into two different paths, becoming different people. And this is how the soul fragments, by building new experiences. Because we said that already, that soul is not something given. It's not something that is always the same. The soul is always in constant transformation and movement and construction. It continuously constructs and builds itself. So now, and this is where it gets interesting for me personally, the idea, the example of the twins aside, but where this fragmentation really occurs mostly is in the etheric side, in the afterlife, between lives. This is very interesting, and I didn't fully understand it until this point. I mean, I knew about the variants variants of different people, different versions of yourself, parallel selves, and all that. But I didn't know exactly how this happens, that the soul splits into two different people. So Ayasi explains that this happens in the afterlife. And why? And now, this is interesting point. In the afterlife, the frequency is much higher. Where you go, the frequency is much higher. The limits of what you think you are, even though you still sustain your identity and you want to sustain your identity still, it's the borders and the limits open up, though. So you start to merge with other souls that you encounter there, with other fields of consciousness that are other people. And because the frequency is so high and the telepathy is working in a different way, you start to experience empathy towards and with those other souls. And that means that whatever they share, because they are sharing their tremendous amounts of ideas there and experiences, whatever they share, you kind of like to absorb into yourself in order to nurture yourself for your own expansion. Ideas are shared and absorbed. And from there, the fragmentation occurs. But I'll get to that. So even here in life, we always share with each other everything. Like, for example, you meet for dinner with your family and you are talking about going to Brazil or something, and one of your family members says, "Oh yeah, I was in Brazil last year, and I went to the Amazons, and I met this and this person." So just by sharing that idea, that experience and that feeling, you already start to feel a desire of kind of wanting to have that experience yourself. So even by not even being there, you already feel like kind of you are there, or that you want to be there, you want to experience that for yourself. Thank you very much, Bent. So if we do this in this life, on this side of the living, imagine how much more, how much more and how easier it is, how much easier it is to do that between souls in the afterlife when they share their experiences. They are nurturing each other with those ideas and absorbing their experiences, because all that soul wants, as Yaski explains, is the expansion, continuous expansion. So you want to expand yourself by these different new ideas and experiences that those souls share. The veil of forgetfulness is less there. It's less veil of forgetfulness, more integration, more absorbing from others, more integration with others. So that's where you start to come up with different life plans for yourself, and you might want to decide to experience two or more, doesn't even matter, things for yourself in your future existence. So you come up with a life plan and you decide on the limits of the experiences, and you build, create a new point of attention for yourself, and that's where you become a new soul. So there is one soul, and then it divides from the afterlife into different paths, different people. And this happens, like I said, because there is this heightened level of empathy, integration with other souls. The ideas are being intertwined, and the souls talk about their lives that they had, whatever. And also because there is an indecision as well. I'll talk about this a little bit more when I mention SWARUU 9. Thank you very much, Barb. Thank you very much, Jose Teresa. When the indecision occurs within the mind in the afterlife, like for example, wanting this and wanting that, well, why not have it both? Why not have it both? Why does it have to be just one? So the soul, the higher self, who is able to manage those two or more points of attention, incarnates into different people. And that's how it fragments. So it's pretty amazing. But here, I'm going to make a pause, because at this point, as I mentioned, a new soul is formed. But now let's focus on this term, a new soul. What does it mean, a new soul? Is this what they refer to when they say old soul? I am an old soul. This is a new soul. Is this what is being referred to here? It's a soul that has fragmented itself. That's why it's new. But in my understandings, it cannot be new still, because even though it fragments itself, it still came from the main root of the previous soul. It's still this. It still has the memories. It still has the same emotional traumas. It still has all the perceptions from the past. It's just that now it operates as two people instead of one, like twins. So for me, it's not a new soul in that sense. So what is that new soul and old soul? So we asked Athena about this about 3 days ago, and I'm going to read this conversation, okay, that we had with her, to try to understand what this new soul versus old soul business is about. Okay, so as I actually as I read this, maybe you among yourself in the chat, how do you perceive an old soul to be? Like, what's the definition of the old soul for you? How do you understand? Because here we are going to talk about just one perspective from the criterion point of view that we established talking with Athena, but there could be other perspectives, other views on this. So how do you perceive the old soul to be? What is old soul to you? Write that in the chat. I may read some of your comments. Let's see what we come up with. So Athena here begins to explain this from her perspective, and she begins talking about twins. So she says, okay, as for the twins, it is the best and clearest example of how a single soul fragments into others. And yes, it keeps its same root or its same past. So in that sense, it wouldn't be a new soul. But it is already another soul. So it's like another soul, not a new soul, really. It is not formed as another one immediately, let's say at birth, talking about twins. Thank you very much, Techniques. But it is formed with the different. I'm going to read all your comments later. Thank you very much, Techniques. But I will continue reading, and I will read your comments a bit later myself. Okay, so it keeps its same root or same past, but it is already another soul. It is not formed as another one immediately, let's say at birth, referring to the twins, but it is formed with the different experiences that each of the twins has during their lives and how it progresses. Because each soul builds itself progressively by its experiences and by the decision it makes. So, as the life of each of the twins progresses, there will always be differences in their experience, simply because they are two different points of attention. And those points of attention begin to differ when they are both in different corners of the same cradle. But as they grow up, their experiences become more and more different. So they end up having very different experiences as adults. However, they will always have and retain the same base or background of previous past life experiences that form the current life, its characteristics, and all that defines it. So if it's shaped by what happened in the past, that new fragmented soul cannot be referred to as the new soul, really, versus old soul. So Athena says, yes, as it happens to both twins equally, none of them are really new soul in itself as such, but they are a single one that formed and transformed into two. So I say, what is this concept of old soul versus young soul? So Athena says this: the concept of old soul and young soul is very new age. However, we could define it in a way that makes sense, because in the end, there can never be any new souls because they are all source. How do you define age of the soul? How do you put the label on that? So, however, they can be new according to one or another criterion. For example, and here she says it in a funny way. I hope you understand what she means. She says, for example, a new soul, as in someone who is living their first experience on earth. So, in this way, in this context, according to this criterion, a new soul could be someone who is living their first experience somewhere, like the new soul on earth, because it's their first experience on earth. She says, even so, it is also considered that the same point of attention accumulates experience in life progressively, acquiring more and more consciousness, from its beginnings as a mineral passing through bacteria, then worm, insect, plant, invertebrate, mammal, and so on. It is that progressiveness of accumulation of consciousness that does not quite fit with the concept that all souls would be of the same age, being that they are all source. However, from source's position or point of view, a new soul would be formed when source itself forms the group of ideas and concepts that define a soul that did not exist before, although there will always be a variant of what already exists. So in that case, there would be new souls exactly as such, as new groups of concepts and ideas occurring within the source, forming a new person somewhere, even though it still wouldn't be a new soul because it's a variant of something that has already existed. Nothing comes out of nothing. Thank you very much, Jean-Claude. Thank you very much, my friend. Bonjour. So maybe in that sense, it could be a new soul, some kind of a new group of concepts that was formed within the source. And as she says, those ideas will always be variants of previous ones. And the previous ones could be said to be the ones that formed your progenitors and your family. So here I'm asking, because like we are discussing this philosophically between Athena, Robert, and myself, and we're like, okay, so maybe I'm thinking, maybe old soul would mean that it's not that you accumulated a lot of incarnations, but like what you got from those incarnations, because you could be stuck in the same point for eons. You haven't expanded, you haven't moved, you're old, but what have you gained from those experiences? So Athena here says, yes, it is not the number of incarnations that matters, but what has been achieved in them. And that is precisely why the loops of reincarnations occur. So Athena says, so I would simply define an old soul as a point of attention that has gained a lot of experience, learned from it, and developed a lot of wisdom from that. Like in the same incarnation, you can have someone who is living a long life but hasn't really learned anything, hasn't experienced anything, and didn't gain anything from those experiences. So she says, like in the same incarnation, whether it was full of enriching experiences or just spent 60 years as an employee of an insurance company. Now, without trying to, that's what she says, without trying to commercialize to sell you more Yasky, at her young age, she already surpassed in experiences many people who are 3 times her age in years of existence. And now I'm asking this, is it important to remember those experiences for me to be called an old soul? Well, Athena just says this. The experiences will always define the person from the subconscious and the unconscious. However, certain things or certain memories would only be useful to you by remembering them directly in a conscious way. So this is a chat that we had about this topic of old soul and new soul. So to recap this, we don't think that the fragmented soul, when it fragments and creates the new soul, that's not within that definition of new soul and old soul. It just means another soul. So what is meant by the old soul here within the context of what we talked about is acquiring a lot of experiences, but also what we learned from those experiences, how they affected us and how they built us. Now, let me go back to the chat now for a moment and see how you understand the old soul to be, if there are any possible suggestions. However, maybe it was more up. Let me see. I just have to go up a little bit and catch maybe. Okay, Angelica says, to me, an old soul is a wise soul, meaning of a very self-aware, conscious katra that has integrated multiple points of view and attention as its own. Yes, so it relates to what we were talking about here as well. Barb says, also someone with wisdom and emotional intelligence. Okay. Frank says, also all the time get high frequency. Okay. Ralph says, also cosmic elder. Okay. Kimberly, also someone who is incarnated many times on Earth. Well, yeah, so this goes into what we are talking about, that maybe a new soul would mean someone is new to the place. Like, for example, if I'm new in Finland, I'll be a new soul in Finland, but it doesn't mean that I'm like new soul completely. So it is a very like subjective subject here. Yeah, exactly. Bent says, isn't the I am an old soul versus you are young and inexperienced soul a bit outdated now? I mean, with all we have learned from the T and S teams. Well, precisely. That's, that whole definition of old, young here. I'm not sure how it really relates. It only, as Athena explained, according to a certain criterion that we might take as valid. And according to that, that would make sense. But from the most expanded point of view, from the cosmic point of view, I'm not sure if it even applies, because there is no time and age, and how do you measure something that is beyond? Okay, so Paul Holmes says, an old soul is someone who has traveled to many worlds. Interesting. Well, all these definitions are valid, and they all have their own criteria here. Criteria, yes. Okay, so this is the topic of the old soul versus new soul. Now, this conversation, as well as the next one that I will read, there's going to be another one that I will read, will be on the website. I will publish the transcript of this conversation, and also the next conversation that I will have, and I'm going to read it too, more towards the end. Okay, now, do you remember the video about etheric inserts, etheric implants of memory? Nothing to do with the implants like when we were abducted or something. It's more to do with the memory implants where you are in the afterlife and the soul wants to experience or have a context to experience something. So they go and implant from the etheric field a certain memory. So this topic of sharing ideas, absorbing from each other, it reminded me a bit of that video, etheric implants. That's what souls do. And now, Yaski talked about people that are nexus people, because that's where most of these fragmentations occur. You are a person, and in your life has happened something, perhaps something drastic, like it was in the case of SWARUU 8, 9, somewhere there. It's not exactly clear at what point she became Nexus. I think SWARUU 9. So something happens, yeah, SWARUU 9. So something happens in your life, perhaps drastic. So it may make your soul, make your higher self decide two different things or more for yourself in the afterlife. So there's a certain indecision within yourself what to experience next. You may want to have two different ideas for yourself. And as in the afterlife, everything manifests faster because that's the plane where everything is just more expanded and integrated. The frequency is higher. Well, everything manifests faster. And what happens when you have a certain idea? Well, it manifests. It manifests even here. The ideas manifest, even though this realm on Earth is a bit more pasty and slow and doughy. Still, the law of attraction and manifestation, all that creative creation of the mind, it still applies always. But even more so there. So if you have a certain idea that is like based on an indecision, for example, you want to experience your life as a fisherman in Fiji, and another one, well, yeah, but I also want to help people who has suffered a lot, so I want to be a lawyer. Well, then within that idea that is undecided in manifesting faster, you fragment, and the soul decides to be two people. That higher self soul, because there are levels of soul here too. That higher soul, your higher self decides to split and be different people. It can manage more than just two people. Here we are just mentioning two, but it can be any amount of people. And actually, in the end, in that cosmic end, that's what it is. All us, everybody, we are just ideas within the source itself. There is just one you. There is just one person, one consciousness, one being that has multitude of ideas of what it wants for itself and wants to experience that. But here we are talking a little bit in a more narrow range of things. Just one soul, one person having different ideas. So it splits. So yes, there can be more than you, more than one you operating in one existence. Um, and it's not referring to parallel lives or parallel existences. It could also, yes, it does apply to that as well, but also within the same life. There could be within the same space-time life. There could be more than just one of you running around. So talking about SWARUU ERRA, now this is exactly what happened with SWARUU. What defines SWARUUs generally, and we can see this in Athena, Mari, and Yaski, is that they remember who they are. But now, SWARUU 9 was a nexus point because she has experienced a lot of tragic experiences in her past, tragic deaths. She was looping her life over and over again for a very long time. By the way, for the newcomers, we call her SWARUU 9 because from SWARUU 2 to 9, it was actually the same SWARUU looping back into the same life, going to the beginning of her life and reliving everything with the memory. That's why we call her SWARUU 9. It was the ninth version of the same person. But since she had bad experiences in her previous incarnation, tragic deaths happened in the past, well, she got tired of it. She was really tired of herself looping and having to go back. She decided she wanted to forget. So just as there are SWARUUs who decided to remember, and that's where we have Athena, Mari, and Yaski line of SWARUUs, I must insist that there are other lines of past SWARUUs that decided to forget. And they are like different people now, new incarnations, because they managed to forget. They created a new line for themselves, a new branch. And they are ex-SWARUU 9s, but now they are different people. And they are around. They are around. Now, Yaski explained this here in her words. I'll read this because something that probably you didn't know, I think I didn't talk about this very much, is that a lot of extraterrestrial people use to come to Earth, to be here on Earth, in either through incarnation or even as a step down and then immersing themselves in the Earth life, to forget. Because they know that on Earth, we usually have a tendency to forget. Those people use Earth as a place where they can come and forget, and this way form a new branch for themselves, where they can form a new person. Maybe they are tired of their memory, maybe they are tired of their experiences. Yes, as much as we here want to remember, they on the other side there, sometimes they want to forget. But of course, it depends. I'm not saying this is general for everybody. It's a case for some of them, like it was the case of SWARUU. So what SWARUU 9 did, not ours, other. I'm talking about another one. She actually came down to Earth as a step down, got herself involved in a lot of experiences, a lot of them quite tragic. She also died a tragic death on life. And she also used some technological help, from what I understand, to help her forget who she was, because she wanted to like detach from that, enough of that, turn the page and become a new person. And she managed to do that. And the earth field is perfect for that, because this is where people forget. So you can create a new you, a new point of attention. And here Yaski explained how this works. Why coming to earth you lose the memory and you can form a new you. Okay. I hope you are with me until this point. I know it's a bit maybe complex and metaphysical, but that's what this life is about. Okay, so this is what Yaski says. SWARUUs are SWARUUs because they don't forget who they are. Are you there? Because the chat stopped. Okay, now it moved. SWARUUs, okay, thank you very much, Paul. SWARUUs are SWARUUs because they don't forget who they are. But occasionally, one of them in any alternative timeline will decide to forget, because we have plenty of reasons to forget. Remember when Mari made this video about Yaski playing with dolls and how she plays to forget? Well, because Yaski remembers, and it's very hard to remember all that. She's the one that chose to remember, Mari as well, and Athena as well. But sometimes she needs to relax from those memories, and that's why she likes to play. But those other SWARUUs that I'm talking about, where the soul split, they decided to forget. And now Yaski explains. Remember, memory is not in the body. So now, if you create an incompatibility with your so-called higher self, then you forget. And you create another identity, self, in the process. So you create an incompatibility with your called higher self. Now, where does this happen? Usually on Earth. Memory is not in your body, only a small part of it is. So you need to have a compatibility of frequency with source. That compatibility is what we call having a connection with source. It is a signal, if you may, being as if source were a radio transmitter and your body the stereo equipment that plays the music. Now, Earth is a low density, pasty, difficult density. It makes the connection with higher self, source, more difficult. Not impossible. There are no here impediments. It's just a bit more challenging. And also that's why many souls come in here. Okay, so that pasty, dense energy makes someone on Earth not be able to connect with the source as much as they did before. This lack of frequency compatibility, therefore not accessing all memory, is what we call the veil of forgetfulness. And that's how you forget here, because of the lack of compatibility with what you were before, with the source. So sometimes, Yaski explains, even if you get extracted, let's imagine you meet an extraterrestrial person, you call them and they take you and you get extracted. Even then, they said, you may not recover fully the memories of who you were before. Normally it happens, being out there helps to recover the memories, but it doesn't always happen. So why? Yaski explains. Sometimes you can't remember fully, even if you go back. Sometimes memories do not return in full. The connection to source with the memories is severed, because your ego identity created what many call another soul here on earth. So you are no longer completely compatible with who you were before. And an example of that was Aneka. Aneka did not remember her past lives. So this is all very interesting, and this is why many ET people, here in this case, I'm using the example of SWARUU 9, one of them, not ours. This is why they use Earth as a place where they can come and form a new point of attention, new soul, by forgetting. By forgetting. Even though, as I said in the beginning, even though you don't remember your past lives, they are still forming you there. Yes, it's still forming you somewhere from the subconscious level, but by new experiences, by not remembering, so looking at everything kind of in a slightly different way, that's already forming a new path for you, for that soul, and you start to create a new point of attention, and you are more and more kind of getting further away from that person you were before. And that's how the souls, people out there, use the earth to fragment, to create new variations of themselves, because not remembering helps. Because, as I said in the beginning, what your soul is defined by memories also, from here to here. So if you don't remember, then that new point of attention will be created from here to here, defined by your earth experiences now. It is very interesting. I know maybe it's not very like super practical for you. You might think this knowledge, but on the other hand, I think it's fascinating to know how souls work and operate, because we are all that. We are all souls. So it's important to all of us to understand how we operate, all of us. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for being here. Oh, an interesting point here, I have it written down. An interesting point here is that even when that soul fragments and creates new people, by the way, just because I'm using that word fragments, it doesn't mean that whatever you are fragmenting into is anything less or like not original. No, it's just creates, it transforms into something new, another soul, but it's not any less or not less original. It's original in itself. Okay, thank you very much, Infi. So, an interesting point here is that even when you fragment yourself into multitudes of selves, your higher self is nourished by all of them, operates all of them, and all of you are giving your higher self nourishment and experiences. Because, yeah, why limit yourself to just one incarnation? The higher self, the higher self is thinking, why should I be just one if I can be 10 at the same time? I can manage, and then I can experience such a great expansion because I'm going to have so many different experiences at the same time going on. And this takes me to another very important and cool point. Okay, when you are in the afterlife, from where the souls share ideas and empathically absorb ideas from each other, manifest things and realities for themselves out of those ideas, this realm, I was gonna drink, but I got excited. I have to say this first. This realm is where all the different timelines, so-called timelines, cross and intertwine. And that's why, additionally, it is a realm from which all possibilities develop there together as a group. They merge. So you're not only meeting their other souls, other family members or whatever, souls that are close to you in a web of things, but you are also meeting other variants of yourselves. You are intersecting so many different fragments and katras of yourself. Again, fragments, I don't mean less every one of those fragments is a whole in itself. So maybe I have to find a different word for fragment. So that's why this realm is so interesting, and that's where it becomes a bit maybe complicated from our point of view, and we don't understand many times how these variants and fragmentations occur. Maybe it makes no sense to us, or it's not sequential, because the higher self decides to fragment from that outside time framework, outside time and outside one timeline framework. We have multiple timelines, multiple versions of yourselves, future, past, identities merged together. And from that field, all these new ideas and experiences decide to be. So I think it's super interesting, this point. Because, okay, the most defined ego, like ego self, is produced from the physical side, from here. But there, as I said in the beginning, all you have is that integration with the variants of you. So this is very, very interesting and important point. That's why even if you try to understand, like, for example, logically, why is that variant there? What's happening? What's the sequence? It wouldn't maybe make much sense to your conscious self, because, like I said, those decisions were made from the realm where there is no sequentiality. There are future and past and different versions and timelines. So it's just too complex for your 3D, so to speak, understanding. Okay. And now I'm just going to say this. The last here point in this whole topic of fragmentation and fusion, by the way, as much as the souls fragment, they also decide to fuse, merge together for the same reason, but reverse. Like, for example, if there were two people, like in a couple, well, they go to the afterlife and maybe they decide just to be one person, because that's what they are anyway, just one soul, one person, one higher self. And this happens as well. But as Yaski here says, and maybe it's difficult to understand, but let me just throw it in. In the end, fragmentation and merging is also illusory. Even though it happens, that's the reality of the souls, that's how they behave, it's also illusory. And why it's an illusion? Because it's another kind of behavior that is based on ideas. It's all just another level of the game, another level of ideas. The soul's higher selves having ideas for itself. But it's all an illusion, in a sense that it's a play. It's just something that within the higher self, okay, I'm getting confused on how to explain this, because it's something I feel on my intuitive level. It's just again a higher self, or a source itself, attaching itself to different desires and wants and ideas for itself, and it wants to play that out. And that's why it's real, but it's an illusion at the same time, because when you look at it from the higher perspective, there are no katras. There are no souls. It's just one mind, one consciousness, one field, and that's it. And that's why it's an illusion, because it's all just based on ideas. Okay, it's complicated to explain this. I'm not Yaski, Yaski would explain this very. Imagine like if we had one of them online, live, and explaining all this in video or something, live or through audio. That would be really cool. Okay. So now, let me share with you a small revelation I had actually about this whole topic, but relating to relationships and to Matthias and I. Okay, Matthias is my partner, is my boyfriend. We believe ourselves to be something like soulmates. However, I don't know if I like this term anymore so much, because I used to believe soulmates is like just these two people meant to each other. But now I start to understand it's all just, bunch of soulmates coexisting and merging and forming new ones and creating new variants and all happening simultaneously. You can even meet another one of those. So it's not like there's just one. Anyway, so I still had this interesting revelation. It happened when I was close to him. I don't know if we were watching something, but I remember I was close to him, and suddenly I felt like we're not just Matthias and I, like a separate people, but we are Matthias and I as one being, one person, experiencing itself through one from through the variety of differences that we have as personalities. Let me explain this. Like, for example, Matthias is very structured and precise and super clean. It's not that I'm not clean, but I'm less than him. He's like super, super, super. So what you believe is the difference in that other person that you believe is your soulmate or your partner. That quality, even if you don't like it, it doesn't matter. That quality logically has to be yours as well, from the higher perspective, from the perspective of your higher soul, that you are managing both of you at the same time. Because if we belong to the same higher soul, higher self, if we are one, then whatever he is, by logic, has to be mine as well, and vice versa. And I felt that very strongly. Like, I felt that his desire to be super clean and organized, well, I am organized too, but his desire to be super precise, let's say, in everything, is something that originated in the higher level, but it simply like went into him, and for some reason it didn't go into me, because for some reason that soul wanted to experience two different ways of looking at life and experiencing things. But it doesn't mean that that precision that he has is not mine somewhere within myself on the higher level. It's mine. It's logical. It has to be mine because we are very close to each other in frequency, intimate in frequency. So obviously we are like one on that level. So accepting this, knowing this, and feeling this, integrating that other person as part of yourself, like really on a real, super realistic level, experiential level, makes you accept that other person and their differences even more, because you really know this is you. It's just like, it struck me, we all know this kind of in the intellectual level, but I felt like really strong within myself, like, wow, that precision that you are is also me. It is me. It has to be, because you are with me. You wouldn't be with me if you were not me. And I'm here referring to those really close relationships, okay? Like, especially close relationships. So do you understand what I'm talking about? I mean, it is, we always say that everybody knows that, what you see in another person is also you, because this is also you. We are all us, it's all us. But like, I really felt it. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's because it was so amazing. But it was like a flash. Like a flash. I suddenly expanded myself, and I felt himself to be myself as well, integrated. It was amazing. It was amazing. So look at your relationships. Look at your partners. Look at the differences between you, especially those of you who are really close. And understand that whatever defines that other person is you as well. And then as you keep expanding, you will start to integrate more and more people in the group as you. That's what Yaski actually feels. She believes, members of her group are like, this is like her, but from her perspective. From another person's perspective, it will be them. It's amazing. So as you expand in consciousness, you will be realizing more and more that you are those other people, that's also you, because we are collective beings in the end. That's what we are. And in the end, we are just source. Amazing stuff. Yes. So now, talking about couples, okay? Stay with me, those who are interested in the couple stuff, because I'm going to read the conversation that we had with Athena SWARUU just recently as well. And I'm going to publish this on the website as well as a transcript. And this is something that came to me. And it's a very logical question, okay? And I think maybe some of you thought about this as well. Okay, 1 second. Okay, because I am very metaphysical and I feel things and all that, but I'm also very logical, which means I think about these matters also in a logical way sometimes. So, for example, okay, if the soul splits, let's say twins, but doesn't have to be twins, anybody who splits, it used to be one person and now it's two people. Well, what happens then to their loved one, I mean, to their partners from the past? If those two people, and I'm talking here especially about the 5D because there they have the memory. Here we wouldn't have the memory. Twins don't have memory of their past life, so it's like we don't care. We go into life more blindly. But there they have a memory. So if the twins in Taygeta, twins, same person before, now operate as two people and they have a memory of their past life, well, logically, they're going to have the same memory of the same past life. And with that, it means they're going to remember being with the same person in the past life. So now what? How do you solve this problem? See, opening these multidimensional realities and life beyond Earth opens up so many Pandora boxes. And this is one of them. For example, if your name is Patricia, well, no, the name of the girl doesn't matter. There are two of me in Taygeta, me and the twin sister. And we both remember being with Jack in the past. Jack is our soulmate, but both of us. So how is it solved? How is this solved? So I asked Athena about this. This is what she responds. Okay. Okay. The one whose frequency. 1 second, because. Buggy. Okay, never mind, because my dog is here and she's eating something. Okay. The one whose frequency is more similar to Jack's, even with tiny differences, would be the one who stays with him and not the other. Minuscule difference, such as she saw him first as he walked in the door at school to say something. Ethically, the other one would move away and look for another man who also agrees with her in frequencies or enough. Because, yeah, I mean, they are the same past life person, but since they were born, their life path already is different. So their frequency starts to differentiate. So, of course, they will go, Jack will go to with whoever the frequency is more compatible with. However, the memories of the other one who is left behind, memories are still there. So she will still remember being with Jack. So now what? Her soulmate from the past life doesn't correspond to her anymore. It corresponds to her sister because she is now closer in frequency. Because that other man that Athena is mentioning wouldn't be the same. It would be another man. It wouldn't be Jack anymore. So it complicates this whole fragmentation of soul, complicates things, and it's a bit sad because I am like a bit romantic here and idealizing this whole twin flames or soulmates situation, and it's very nice to be like with the same person over and over, but this whole fragmentation, I'm telling you, it's all complicating everything. So she says this: I don't see soulmates as something necessarily pre-programmed. Rather, I understand or accept that there are people who are more compatible with each other than most, and within that group of potentially more compatible people, the right one will emerge. And it is the right one because, in addition to that potential compatibility, he has the willingness and motivation to modify himself to fit more with his new partner, just as that new partner has to do the same equally. Otherwise, they would not work as a couple. Okay, I said, okay, but I said, that's very nice. Okay, still in Taygeta, you're going to remember your past life partner with names and everything. Does this happens? What do you do? What you explained above, who enters first through the door will keep the man. And she says, it happens like with the twins. It can become an embarrassing or tense situation. And I say this to her. Okay, Athena, I mean, you go around remembering that you were with someone for 3 past lives. You love them. But then another girl remembers the same thing because she is your immediate fragment. And Athena says, yes, it becomes a problem. And I say, well, I have this idealized idea of relationships. And she says, well, that's nice and good. And it happens a lot of times. People do tend to look for each other. And I say, well, but this adamatic fragmentation complicates everything. And Athena says, that's also why you tend to forget. I think in this situation, you tend to accept the situation and love someone else. Even with the memory of being with Jack, you decide to love John now. But hey, there is hope here in this. And the hope is that there are variants of Jack as well, because he's splitting himself probably as well. So maybe John is a variant of Jack. So that like solves the situation. Even if you remember being with Jack, your sister was with Jack because she has the same memories, she's your twin. But now you're with John because he's a variant of Jack, and that's okay as well. So it's like that. And this is what Athena confirms this. She says, yes, there are variants of the same person that are perceived as 2 or more. They could be perceived as siblings. They are not the same. And I say here, as a last comment here, I say, anyway, I still see the remembering so much and then being aware of your fragments as you is complicated, at least in this aspect of relationships. And Athena says, it is. But on the other hand, by remembering your partner from before also makes things easier when you meet, because you know that it is him or her, and that's it. No more looking for anybody else. No more, trying to go on several different dates trying to find compatibility. You meet Jack, you know that's Jack, you remember past life, so here remembering helps. Anyway, as you see, yes, Barb says love is complicated not only on Earth plane. As you see, this gets even more complicated. That's why they always say, yeah, people always want to be here and transcend. And I understand life is much easier there in many aspects, but it also gets a bit more complicated in other aspects. It's not like just super easy. Anyway, I don't know what you thought about this whole subject, but it's kind of interesting. Let me just check with Bongo status. Okay, she's eating a toy. Now, if you are interested to continue with this romantic angle of the things, in the next video, I'm actually going to share the conversation that we had with Athena last year. And I'm going to include this here because it fits into this topic of souls and how points of attention jump and fragment and all that. And I'm going to ask her this question in that next video. I want to ask her, how about, because the points of attention, the souls can jump from one variant of your partner to another, right? By the compatibility of frequency, which can change throughout the lifetime. So in your future existence, you may maybe end up with the same partner, but in a different variant of himself or herself. But that means that variant will have different memory. Does this happen? Wouldn't that be like weird? In the next life, I'm going to meet Matthias, but it's going to be different Matthias. He's going to not remember being in Finland, but he's going to remember being with me and Bongo, who is a boy and not a girl, in Italy. Weird. So I asked Athena about this in a future video. Don't worry, that future video is not going to be just about this, and not only about this, but actually the conversation will transform into soul loops. That's going to be very interesting universally to everybody, even if you are not interested in the romantic side of life, about loops. Okay. Anyway, so that's it. And now, oh yes, I'm going to read a very short sentence, paragraph from Yaski, because here, from this side of things, even myself, I acknowledge. Thank you very much, John. As you see, we have attachment to romanticized version of love or soulmates and all that. But for Yaski, this is how she sees all this. There is a web that connects all living organisms as one source. And in that web, some people operate close to one another than other people. Those could be interpreted as being closer in a loop to one another, having worked together before in a personal linear interpretation of time. But from above, and this is how she tends to see things, all I see is one mass of people sharing their energy, their knowledge, and experiences to form another being who encompasses them all, and in turn will be another cell making up a much larger being, and so on and so forth until you get to Source itself. You're not a person, a soul. You are a colony, a conglomerate of other people, other consciousnesses, past, present, and future, all at once making up Gosia. So this is how Yaski perceives it from that level. So that's that. Now, before we finish the live, it's not all yet. Rogue status, would that be a kindred soul, just fragments meeting each other? Yes, yes, exactly. That could be that as well. See, that's too difficult for me to answer that question right now. I will have to think about it and more. Now, before we finish, I'm going to go into several points from the part 2, from the second video. From the second video. Now, in that second video, I described my own feeling, how I was a little bored sometimes with the range and parameter of what I believe myself to be, like what I feel represents and defines Gosia from here to there, right? It's all like parameters. I couldn't be a person and I couldn't be speaking right now if I was just a blob of energy, like with nothing that like defines me. I wouldn't be able to even contain myself here within the body. But so I need certain parameter from here to here. But I'm tired of that sometimes because I feel I'm so much more, as all of you are, just like kind of like maintained within the parameter of the person. But I'm not a person. See, very often I feel I'm not a person. I'm not a person. This is a very strong feeling that I have. I always say this. I am a being, even though right now I am a human person and Taigetan person. That doesn't even define me. I'm just a being. That's all. Formless, shapeless. Thank you very much, White Avatar. So it is a very strange feeling sometimes to be operating within this parameter of a person. So that's what I was referring to. By the way, just to clarify, I'm not bored with life in general, because I saw some comments and comments were like, oh yeah, I'm bored with life too. No, I'm not bored with life. I am bored with parameters, my own parameters that I have created upon myself to experience this life as that way. And I would like more and more to just, I'm just so much, I'm different. I'm not that. I am not a parameter. I am the whole. Okay. And I think more of a lot of you would understand this feeling. But now Yaski asked this question in the video. Well, what is it that keeps you from developing more, from embodying that more? The very idea that you feel you are limited. You think yourself to be you feel yourself to be a parameter because within yourself, somewhere on some deep level, you believe, you subscribe to the idea that being within the person imposes the limits of being from here to there. But it's to within being within the body it encourages that feeling. It imposes that feeling. That's what the body is for, to give you that framework. Because once you don't have a body, you dissolve more, you integrate more into others. So the body gives you that perception, but again, it's another agreement somewhere that can be transcended. Who says that the body is there to limit you to be and to embody something more? I mean, it's a very strong agreement, very, very, very powerful collective subconscious agreement. So probably it's going to be difficult to transcend that. But hey, there's no limit. And like Yaski said, don't limit yourself. Go with that feeling and embody, visualize yourself to be what you believe yourself to be. It doesn't matter the body. Don't see it as a limitation or as an impediment. Don't reject it either. It's not about rejection of the body identity and the experience it gives you. It just not letting it define you. Be you, be Robert, be Gosia. Experience life through that point of attention because you decided that. But don't let that define you, because you are so much more. And through that, you will be expanding more and more, naturally and automatically, because you gave yourself permission to be embody more. I could talk about this topic more, but I don't want to extend myself too much. Okay, so I have to practice this, what Yaski gave me here in this second part of the video. She gave me that advice to go and visualize myself to be in whatever form I believe myself to be, and let that impermeate me here more and more. It opens the frontiers of from here to here. So so that was nice. Now a small pause. Okay, I'm gonna check on Bongo. Okay, Bongish, I know you're bored. Okay, so oh yes, I didn't mention this. I forgot to mention this in the Spanish live. I almost forgot to mention this here. When I told Matias about this feeling that I have, like that I don't want to be a person, or I don't want to be this person. Like it's not that I don't want to be. I am not. I am not. So if I'm not a person, why can't I like experience myself, being another person? So, sorry. So as an exercise, I started talking to Matthias in a different voice, like in a different way, like because however I speak right now, that's a definition of Gosia. Like if you think who is Gosia, you're gonna right away have an idea of this me speaking like this with this intonation with this accent. That's Gosia. Well, you are imposing a parameter on myself, but that's because I led you to create that parameter, because this is how I perceive myself and this is how my voice comes out. But how about if I'm not a person, if I'm not Gosia, well, how about I try to speak in a different intonation? What if I start to speak differently? Maybe I can go beyond the boundary of myself. I know, it sounds crazy. And I actually freaked Matthias out. He said, no, don't do that. This is weird. He says, I just speak normal. And I said, well, what is that normal? Why is this speaking normal and not something else? Why can't I speak like that? What is this from here to here? I hate that. So unfortunately, I couldn't practice with my exercise very much around him. Maybe with Bongo, I think she'll be more welcoming to practice my metaphysical, transcendental ideas. Yeah. Yes, Charlie. He didn't like it because it sounded to him like I was going crazy. But it was just an exercise, just to go beyond what you believe yourself to be, something else. Try to be a different identity. I don't know, because I'm not just this identity. I'm a collective being. All of us, we are collective beings. We are just, the usual stuff. The practice with Robert. Yes, I don't know. I don't know. Well, I wonder how he would accept that. See, no, and no new updates on that topic. No new updates on that topic. Okay, now I'm going to ask you a question, okay, and answer in the chat. And very soon we're going to finish the live, but this is going to be like one of the last points here. White Avatar says, I practice this a lot. It's so fun. Thank you very much, Milko. Jose says, your voice change is very noticeable when you do Yasky voice and SWARUU voice. Actually, to be honest, now that I think about this, to do that, to do Yasky voice and Athena's voice, yeah, it is like a metaphysical exercise for me. It actually helps me to like go beyond the boundary of myself. It's kind of like I am tuning into them, and I do that by changing the voice, the intonation, and that energy, and I expand into theirs. It's very interesting. Yeah. Yes. Nibiski Motulisa says, playing a role in the theater or movie is something worth checking out as an experiment. Well, yes. And actually, I wanted to act, but I think it's very interesting acting. A very long time ago, when I was living in Australia, I actually signed up to some like acting agencies, and I got some small roles, like in a small budget things. I won a theater production. It was a restaurant thing. Funny thing, and this is crazy, I only got 2 roles, really. One role was in a restaurant theater production. You know what I was? It was a Star Trek parody, and they give me a role of an alien. I had this one body suit, and I was, how great, given total freedom to act as however weird I wanted. So I was acting. It's actually in my photos. If you have Facebook, if you go to my Australian album, there you will see the pictures. Yeah, I could be whatever I wanted and express myself in a strange way. And then another role that I received, again, it was on a spaceship. It was a small film, like just, independent thing, very small. It was on a spaceship, and I was a doctor. I was a medical doctor on a spaceship. We were flying through space. So 2 roles that I got were space related, alien related, very, very coincidental. No coincidence, says Z. No, yeah, coincidence? No coincidence. Very interesting. So yeah, acting also, yeah, could be a good exercise. Okay, now the question for you. Okay, do you think that remembering past lives is important? Is it important to you? Write the comment in the comment section. I'm going to read it. I'll tell you what I think about it. What do you think about past life remembrance? Why is it important to you if it is, and why not? Okay, I'm going to start. So for me, yes and no. Yes, because as Yasky also explained, you can understand yourself and your past more, your shadows, your traumas, and everything that is probably maybe causing your soul to be looping. Because the reason why you are looping many times is because you had certain decisions in the past life, and you want to repeat that, certain experiences, something you want to correct in your understanding. So to transcend those loops is important to remember past lives. This is your subconscious. Subconscious is your past life. So entering into into your subconscious means you're entering into your past lives, understanding yourself. On the other hand, as I believe, you are always creating yourself anyway, even though that past shaped you and is continues to form your interpretation of things, but it's kind of redoable, I think, at the same time. You can always create something new out of the present moment and the present and the past moment all together. You can recreate yourself, even though what formed the present moment is your unconscious past life. It is connected, of course. Okay, what do you think, so far about this? Let me just go into the chat. Let's see some answers. If it's important to you. 1 second to go back up. Charlie says, I don't think it's important. Yeah, but say why. Why it's not important to you. And Marisha says, remembering past lives helps to connect some of the dots. Well, exactly. Especially if those dots are causing trouble for you. Like you are trying to transcend something. Maybe something, in you is causing you, like I said, looping or trauma, shadows. So connecting the dots helps a lot to move forward. Okay. Now, Calvin says, only if it adds to the development of your soul can be a distraction to your purpose for now. Oh, yes, also. Okay. And Cindy says, I like to know my past lives. I know some, and it had helped me to close chapters on this one. Yeah, exactly. It can help you overcome some chapters. Now, Mick Flair says, it is most definitely important to me, especially for the reasons that you just mentioned, so that I can know how and why I am now in this incarnation based on what I've already been through in the past. Yes, that's what I mentioned as well. Yes. Okay. Beach Weave says, I don't remember any. That's fine. Not wondering about it. I don't remember any either, actually, myself. I am not desperate to know at all. In fact, and this is where I will mention why it's not so important to me. In fact, I believe in my own decision of forgetting, because I believe knowing some of my dots in the past, thanks to the SWARUUians, I think I had not such an easy life before. So I understand that me forgetting was for a reason. And I trust my higher self uh, with that decision. If I forgot, it's because I had a reason to forget, and now I'm just gonna enjoy the present moment and be glad that I forgot. That was the point, maybe, of coming in here, to forget, to relax, maybe from some burdens, because memory is going to connect the dots, but it's also going to bring difficult memories and difficult things to process. It's going to bring up again maybe pain, something that you went through in the past, maybe a tragic death. So you're going to have to face that again if you get your memories back. So for that reason, I'm glad I am not remembering, because I believe I chose to forget for a specific reason, and I believe that reason. Okay, now let's see what else is here. I have to go back a little bit. 1 second, please. Viv only says, what for? To remember. Isn't it the reason we incarnate? Forgetting is essential, and it's the soul desire. Okay, 1 second. Let me find some comments. I'm going fast. Okay. Bent says, I used to be maniac about it, trying to remember, but I no longer hold this want. Yeah, let me just tell you, for example, from Matthias's experience, he wanted to remember very much as well. I think he still does, but he wanted to remember more of his own identity. And now, with our experience with our friends from Toleka, well, he was able to understand maybe some of his links to his greater cosmic, I don't know, identity. However, I wouldn't say greater cosmic identity. It's himself. Him here is not any lesser identity for being here on Earth. But anyway, now that he understands some of that, like for example, that he has links to Taygeta as well, it didn't really change anything for him. So all that he was looking and seeking for that so desperately, but now that he knows this part, it's like it didn't change anything. He feels the same. you don't imagine that knowing if you were a Syrian or remembering if you were this or that is going to change anything for your present moment, like your feelings. Not much. Is he still continues to be how he is, and he still has his yearnings like he had before, and his feelings is because if it, especially if that story comes from someone on the outside, if it doesn't, maybe if it comes from your own memory, maybe it would have a different value. But like if someone comes and tells you, it's just a story. It's a story. It's not coming from your own self, so it sounds more like a story. um Anyway, it's just a little 2 cents here. Okay. Interesting. Golden Orb says, I remember future lives too. Past, present, and future lives. Stay tuned for the next video because actually this point will be mentioned. Actually, it's very interesting because some of the memories, I'm just going to give you this little aperitif teaser for the next video. Some of the memories are actually a map for our future. I'm going to just make a pause here so you can process this. This is very interesting. What we think is a memory is actually a map for our future. And that's also because here we are talking about loops. We are looping something. So we are remembering something as if from the past, but it's actually from the future. It's super interesting. So stay tuned for the next video. I don't know if I can catch any more sentences here. I mean, any more answers about memories and map for our future. That is scary, Robert Watts. Well, yeah, not in every case, of course. Don't look at every single memory you have as a map from the future, but it can be because it's all meshing together in that realm, in that mental realm. Time is not linear, Charlie. Yes, exactly. So, okay, so Yasky talking about the past life memories. She says that in the last video, she said that the past memory, past event is already something that happened in your line of existence as a katra. So it's not important because it passed. It happened in your line of existence before. It already happened. However, here, without contradicting Yassi as well, we know that our existence is not just a line, because as I said, it could be a spiral, it could be a loop. So in that sense, here, remembering the past lives would be important, not just as something that just happened. And interestingly, in the next video, also in that next video I'm talking about, Athena will mention loops, and sometimes it's not just 1 or 2 lifetimes that are looping. It could be up to 1,000 lives that you loop. So, for example, you might be you, and then you will be other people, and then within okay, I think I'm gonna let her explain this. It's gonna be better explained. And then then for example, in your next 500 incarnations, you will be meeting your first incarnation as yourself. You'll be in the relationship with yourself. So we'll be swapping roles and then back and forth, but it's still you. It's just you are in that greater loop. Nutty things. But yeah, that's going to be the next video, okay? Loops of thousands of lives. But that's why, and that's why remembering past life here is important as well. Because, for example, if the reason and the root of your problem, of why you are looping, happened 8 past lives back, but you only remember 3, so you still not reach the reason and the root of the problem. So you will not be able to transcend that. Okay, so that's that on the topic of past lives. Well, Nomad is asking how to explain certain affinities and love for certain cultures and people. For example, if I love China and its culture, but I am not Chinese, May I have an experience in life as a Chinese? Of course, exactly. You may have had life there as a Chinese person in any of your past incarnations, or maybe in the future. Maybe it's a future map, so to speak, because you might be some kind of a spiral. So it's something you will be experiencing. Maybe you were a Chinese, or you will be a Chinese, or it could be also coming from another self, from a parallel self, so to speak. That's that desire toward that other culture. For example, in my case, it's Mongolia. I've always had this affinity with Mongolia, and I dream of going to Gobi Desert. I don't know why. Maybe at some point my future self will experience something very important and relevant, mystical there. And because, on that higher mental level, there is no time, there is no sequentiality, well, that revelation, mystical experience is already leaking to me here, inspiring me to go there in the first place. So my future self is inspiring the event towards my past self. Crazy, but that's how it is, that's how it is. Okay, so now the last point, and then we're going to finish. It seems that we lasted almost exactly, it's going to be exactly the same as in the Spanish live. Yaski mentioned, well, I first mentioned in the last video that I don't like to be in groups. And Yaski responded with something interesting that I never thought of before, but it's very cool to think about that. I don't like to be in groups very much because I don't know. I feel like I am I'm drained of energy, or I don't know. I feel very fine by myself. I don't have a need to even have friends. Like, I know it sounds crazy, and I always mention this, but I just do not have a need for company. I don't. I enjoy occasional talks with people here and there, even like silly, random, short conversations with people who are walking their dogs. We meet at dog parks, and we have just some random conversation. I don't even know who that person could be, a matrix person, but it's like something brief, enjoyable in that moment. But I don't have a need for further interaction. So Yaski said that she is the same way, and that the reason why you might feel this way is because you integrate already within yourself everything that other person can offer. Because in a way, in the background of ourselves, as an essence, we are collective beings. We are just, again, experiencing ourselves here from here to here as a singular individual. But in fact, we are so much more than that, and we are collective. So in a sense, we don't have a need for the company of others or to integrate ourselves towards others, because we already are that ourselves. We already carry the richness of everything that those other souls can give us within ourselves. We are them, we are that. So we don't have the need to interact with another point of attention of ourselves, because it's already within us. And it's amazing. I never thought about it this way, but that's how I feel. I feel complete on my own. I don't need to have other people to complete me in that sense. And that's why many people, even in Taygeta, for example, older people, do not have the need to be in the relationships anymore. They have crossed over that desire and that need to be experiencing themselves in the interaction with another romantically, because they are that. They integrated that into themselves. They are their partner, and they know it. They are one person. So I thought it was a very interesting point when she mentioned that. So, yes, Bent, I listened to Spanish Live yesterday, and I like to be in that group and in this one. That's about it. I bet many here are the same. Yes. And on the other hand, maybe some people like to be in groups like this one, when we are closer in a frequency, because that's also how souls are in the afterlife. The souls that are compatible in frequency, intimate and close in that web that is all, that is source, they merge, they share ideas, they have this empathy and telepathy, and they become one. And that's what is missing in our 3D experience here, because we are experiencing ourselves as these individual, strong, ego defined people, and we miss that integration on a more collective level. And that's why we like to surround ourselves with a similar like people. But on the other hand, and it's not a contradiction, if you do not have that need, like in my case, I just feel that it's already in me. I don't know how to explain this. Like Yaski said, because we are collective. In the end, we are all collective beings. Okay. Tatiana says, I don't need company too. We feel similar. WP says, I love this information. How to go about asking other questions, though? I was wanting to get some information on an unrelated topic. Maybe it can be another video or mini topic. Sorry if it's not right forum. Well, ask a question and let's see what can be done about it. Yes, usually when I do lives on a certain topic, it's better if we keep it on that topic. But if it's some kind of interesting question from other realm of life, I can maybe keep it in my mind and put it in mini topics or something. Oh, anything on Lyme disease. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, you can slowly dismiss yourself if you are wanting to go to do something else, because I have no other points to the. Oh, I didn't show my earrings today. They are there, hidden. Because there is no other point I'm going to discuss, only if I see some random question that I maybe can still ask. Barb says, very interesting. I was always thinking that's the introvert in me. Well, yes, that could be too, but there could be a deeper reason behind that introvert tendency. Cosmic Mind says, thank you very much, Gosia. You're welcome. You're welcome, Quantum Dimension. Lyrian versus the Matrix says, Gosia, don't go. Well, what else could I be telling you about? Thank you very much, Eva Carolina, Happy Girl as well. All the moderators who are always helping and always supporting. You are like so awesome, and we have this great team of people who are supporting us and helping. But as always, I want to say hello to everybody who is watching and not typing and not interacting, which is okay as well, of course. So thanks for being there and for taking your time out of your Saturday to be here. Just to mention, I mentioned this in some places in my social media. If you want to have a trip to Finland in September between 1st and 3rd, well, Matthias, Bongo, and we will be at this local conference here, UFO conference. I think they are celebrating their anniversary, so I'm gonna have a little speech. I would say, how to say, I'm gonna have presentation there, and I'm going to be there. Oh yes, thank you very much, Bent. That's the link. Yes. However, I think it's in Finnish. More information will be given in the beginning of the summer. So you are all invited, of course, and you can meet Bongo and myself and Matthias. But Bongo will be there too. She was invited by the organizer, because organizer, I think they already know that we're a package here. So, Infi, thank you very much for your time. Gosia, thank you very much for being here. Yes. Any last comments? Something? Oh, white avatar. Rohan and I will try to be there. Oh, that would be very cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Oh, I didn't mention my next videos. Okay, as always. So my next video, as I have been mentioning in this live, will be that chat with Athena. They will start on a romantic note, but then it will go into loops and into that comment that memory is a future map. It's going to be very interesting. Ah, loving Earth Life. Can you share your targeted name with us? I can't. I can't because it's not. It wasn't really given to me. I'm not permitted. Um. Okay. Another topic that I will share with you very soon will be. Okay. Well, this is going to be short. Why? Some people say that Titans cannot come from Pleiades because Pleiadian system is too young to have any life. Well, I'm going to answer that, and this goes into what Billy Mayer was talking about when he was talking about Pleiaren and not Pleiadians. Well, it has to do with that. So wait for that video. Also, I'm going to include information from Alahi. He was a scientist, is no longer, on Toleka, and it was information given by him some time ago about his research to do. It's to do with star seeds on Earth, how what kind of influence they have. It was published already in the Spanish world somewhere. Yeah, in the star seeds influence about on the planetary consciousness, but it's like a scientific study. That's what he was doing. So I'm going to publish that in English. Also, I have this strange series that I'm going to start. Also, that I am calling this series "Historical Curiosities," something like that. But it has different things I haven't shared yet, and that's from the past. Okay, from the past chats. So it's going to be about dinosaurs, then about Yeti, Bigfoot, all that doesn't exist. About vampires, Iraq, conversation with SWARUU about the war in Iraq, and also Titanic, what happened on Titanic. Our old followers who are with us for a long time, they have heard me talk about this information for a long time, but I never shared it yet. So maybe here I will. It's going to be interesting as well. Titanic. So that's all for now, only for now, that I have accumulated on the topic of these historical curiosities. Of course, we have to continue with the interstellar life about ships and all that. And a lot of other things all the time. And oh yes, and of course I'm going to share something that Robert already shared in his Spanish video about dark matter. I think I was collecting questions on this topic from you some time ago, so some of those questions will be included. Dark matter. Also, interesting topic. I was asking Yaski some time ago, not long ago, how is it that Targetans and Svarunians didn't know about this whole federation business before? Knowing how they are these ultimate managers and manipulating things, and how they are deceiving even extraterrestrial races to come here to Earth. So how come they didn't know this before? Like being here, thousands of years before and hundreds of years before. How come they are discovering this now? So this is going to be a very interesting conversation as well. And also, just a few days ago or a week ago, we had a conversation. Okay, I don't have anything more about Islam in itself and other religions. We didn't talk about just Christianity. We were talking about all the religions as a package, long time ago. So we don't have anything specific. Well, we did talk about Christianity when we talked about Jesus in that series, yes. But I don't have anything specific to say on those other religions at this time. Okay, so maybe if you ask a more specific question on in there in the topic of Islam or other religions, specify the question, and then maybe we can ask them. Okay. Is there anything to Australia? We are weird, lol. I lived in Australia 3 years in Brisbane. I don't think you are weird. Well, it's a stereotype, of course, and I don't like to stereotype because everybody is always different. But yeah, you are kind of unique. Like, what's the word? I don't know the word. I have it on top of my tongue, but I can't. You're different. Like, you're just fun people to be around. I had good friends there, but everybody's different, of course. Anyway, what I was talking about, a few days ago, we had a conversation, a week ago, with Athena about how other beings from other densities influence us all the time. So this is going to be another video, influence of other beings, such as elementals, lower astral beings, but also higher beings. And when those higher beings influence us, how are they influencing us, like from their point of view? Because here perspectives change. From their perspective, things look different. So when they are influencing us, are they considering our perspective, or they're just influencing us from what they believe is good from their perspective? So we're going to go into that as well with Athena. Yes. So this and much more always, and whatever new topics come up. And of course, I have another mini topics building up there. I don't even know how many mini topics are there already in the file. Mick Flair, thank you, Gosia. I appreciate so much what you have been doing for the last 6 years. Well, it's like actually since we started sharing, it's like 5 years. And then we have known them for 5.5. We are in the 6th year of contact, but we haven't reached full 6 years yet. 6 years yet. Well, I think I'm gonna go because Bongo is waiting for me. She's bored, and I need to see what she's up to. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this topic of the fragmentation of souls inspired some your own contemplations and expanded you into some areas. Yaski is good. Larian is asking, how is Yaski? Yes, she's good. She's good. Nothing there drastic that has happened, as far as I know. And that's that. I could be looking at your comments forever and could be here all night just looking at what you are writing. But I'm getting tired. My energy level is going down. I'm not used to so much talking, actually. Usually I just spend all day by myself because Matthias works a lot. So I'm working on videos by myself. And the only person I talk to is Bongo. But that's like not talking. It's like just making strange sounds usually and strange voices. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day as well, Mick Flair and everybody else. And see you next time. Thanks for your openness and for your patience and for your willingness to learn. And on those words, Bongo has just arrived. Just now. She knew. She knows when I talk about her. I talked about her and she just came. Squeezing. She brought this in her mouth. It's a ball wrapped in an old sock. This is a perfect toy, by the way, if you have puppies, because those toys they get destroyed very fast. So if it gets destroyed and you only have this, then you can put this in a sock, and it's still, they like to pull it and play with that. So on those words, since she came, I'm just going to say goodbye here from Bongo as well. Wait, where are you going? There it is. There is Bongi. This is my Bongi. Are you enjoying yourself, Bongi, here? Yes? Bongo. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you for being here. I must go and play because she came. Bye, everybody. Bye, guys. Bye, 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 bye. Ciao, ciao, ciao.